Welcome, everyone. How's everyone doing today? I'll give everybody just a little bit of time. I'm a little tight. I got busy with stuff. Almost started taking my lunch a little bit late. But I'm here for you all. How's everyone doing? All right, so I've been super busy with moving, and so I think it's a little light today. These are some things I didn't get to go super deep into everything. There's a couple things that we're probably going to revisit next week as well. Um, yeah. Oh, well, I'll cover the highlights of the stuff that's happened. One thing that I did want to follow up on that I didn't see a whole lot. I didn't see a whole lot of was there was a response from Cloudflare, but I wanted to see the company give an official one. So Matthew, the CEO, gave a response, but it wasn't like an official company response. And so I've been still waiting for that for what's happened. So yeah. All right. So let's start with security. Like normal. We normally start with security. There was a warning. I know that I try to keep this to like developer security news. I think you guys would find this interesting. There was a warning from Google of Pixel firmware security flaw that is being exploited as a zero day. Uh oh. Black screen. 1 second. Or not. What? Let me try unplugging it and replugging it. Give me 1 second. All right. There we go. That always works. That always works. I'm doing well. All right. So anyways, if you're using a Google Pixel, now this is like Pixel hardware, you should update. And so I know that I run Android. I don't have a Google Pixel, but I do know. So I wanted to let you guys know about that. Now, Microsoft has accepted responsibilities for issues raised in the report about the Chinese hacking that affected it earlier this year. They've they've taken responsibility for it, and we have seen that they've even taken what I would consider a pretty extreme stance on putting people's pay based off of this. So this is something I'm going to continue to watch and see how it goes. I'm actually going to try to get to talk to some people at Microsoft about the changes it's brought about, like if it has changed development at all. So we'll see if I can't get some people to talk to me about it. I do know some people there, but I can't really talk to those people because it's pretty easy to know who I would know. So I have to find some other people. So if you're from Microsoft and would like to talk to me about how it's changed development, or if it changes development at all, please let me know. JetBrains warns of an IntelliJ IDE bug exposing GitHub access tokens. So if you've been using JetBrains and you've used the GitHub integration with the GitHub plugin, you need to delete that access token, and you need to cycle your access tokens immediately. You have to assume at this point that access token is vulnerable, and you need to cycle it right now, because it's been leaking in every single one of their IDEs, which they're all the same IDE, just with like language server support. So this makes sense that it happened in all of them. I do not use JetBrains. No. But I know that a lot of developers do. I know that a lot of developers really like their things. So I thought this was highly important because there's a lot of people that this could affect. So I brought this up because this happens over and over and over again. You have to be careful what extensions you use. I generally only like using extensions from well-known providers like Microsoft or Google, or there's AWS. I can go on, but you have to be really careful with this. And this actually happened to be in a theme. So this was in Darkula official, and it did what it wanted to. It rethemed your thing, but it also then gave you access to everything on your system. So this is where it becomes really, really important to actually understand who you're getting a VS Code extension from, because extensions are code that you're giving access to run in your repositories, and it can be pretty dangerous. So I just wanted to throw this out there, especially if you're like the security person for a company. It might be really important for you to go through and put acceptable VS Code extensions that your teams are allowed to use, because I think it could be a pretty big deal. Commando Cat cryptojacking is targeting misconfigured Docker instances. So I actually kind of played around with this by misconfiguring a Docker instance and exposing it to the internet. And it happens surprisingly fast, surprisingly quickly. I can do this on stream for you guys to do this, the misconfiguration. It's fairly simple to do, and if it's accessible by the internet, it only took about an hour or two before there was crypto mining on my Docker instance. So they are crawling. They were looking for these. They're especially looking for. So I did this in AWS as a test. I'm sure that they know what the AWS IPs are, ranges are, and yeah. No, I'm not breaking other people's. I actually put a vulnerable Docker. Okay? I'm not hacking somebody else's, to be clear. I put one that's misconfigured and made it accessible and waited to see how long it took for somebody to access and start mining cryptocurrency. So anyways, this is just a warning. Configuration is a big deal. I actually think configuration is one of those things that AI could be super helpful at, because we're talking about really advanced statistical analysis. And that is one of those things where we could have something that looks at those things and gives you warnings about possible misconfigurations. I really would love to see more in that area. Hey, Rust, we write a lot of Rust here. You should feel right at home, unless you're talking about the Rust game, and I don't play that at all. Good to see you. We're just covering the news. I cover the news at my lunch break on Fridays. So we just go over the different newses that happen for those. Project? What project are we asking about, Scott B? It's good to see you too. I know I took a week off. It feels like forever. since I got to hang out with you guys. Oh, crypto mining sensor. Oh. You know, I actually don't think that a crypto mining sensor requires AI, honestly. I think AI is overkill for it. And the reason is it has pretty easy trackable network traffic. Because if you think about it, it has to join the network to do the mining, right? It has to do the things with the network to be a part of it. And so actually identifying a node that's crypto mining should be really easy. Should be really easy. Now, the configuration proofreader, that's the one that I think is really interesting. I think that it would require a lot of data to train properly, but I think that's the one that's really interesting. If we could start pulling in all of the insecure data sets, configurations, and start training it to recognize those bad patterns. That's my thought, is that there's patterns and we're making the same patterns. And so if we can train it with those patterns, it can see the same patterns in different fields and you know, kind of start seeing some stuff like that. The other thing that I think is really cool with the AI in security is anomaly detection. So a lot of times you're talking about firewalls where you're configuring them to handle stopping an attack. But how do you detect if somebody is currently breached your systems? And this is where I think, again, AI would be really, really interesting in a anomaly detection scenario where you're actually detecting anomalies on your network, saying, hey, Merrick never logs in from Japan. That's dumb. That's probably an anomaly to raise. Or, hey, look, this machine started talking to this other machine and it never does that. Why would it start now? That's an anomaly. Now, maybe you started making that machine talk to the other machine, and that's fine. But that would be where I think AI could be really, really powerful in security. All right, let's talk about AI since we did it. I found something that brought warmth to my heart. You know, we've seen people using AI to join real human things, and that's just a shame. And so finally, a photographer flipped the script, and it brought joy to my heart. A photographer was disqualified from an AI image contest after winning with real photo. Oh, yes. They won with a real photograph. Absolutely amazing. We'll move on to some real news. All right, so AI discovers a new rare earth-free magnet at 200 times the speed of man. This is the type of AI headlines that I deplore. Because if you actually go into this, if you actually read into this, they talk about how they've spent the last decade, 10 years, building the system to do this. Yeah, it's been researching and developing it for over a decade. So these types of things are the things I find misleading. There is an entire team of researchers building a machine to detect this, and it does do some amazing things. But it's not like they asked ChatGPT for a rare earth-free magnet. These were it was a large team of scientists that were putting all of their knowledge into it. So anyways, there's that. Let's move on. So we all know that a lot of people left OpenAI. And the cool thing is this. I'm gonna leave this with you guys. This was a really cool paper. Now, I haven't actually gotten through all of it, and I can't tell you that I understand all of it, but I'm working on it. And this was basically, this was one of the researchers that left. This was, interestingly enough, one of the researchers that did not ask for to thicken the plot and inform you all. This was one of the researchers that did not want Sam Altman to return after the ouster, and it dedicated it to Ilya, which is was the lead researcher at OpenAI. Okay, so anyways, you guys might want to read this if you want. We can ask Copilot to summarize this, which is pretty cool. So we're going to do this. Generate a document summary, please. So we're going to do that. We're going to do that to this one and the next one because OpenAI basically released a response to this document. These are fun, by the way, asking Copilot to do this. Completely worth using Edge on Arch, by the way. All right. I know this for a fact. This, I don't know. Let's see if it gives us a reference. It does not seem that it gives a reference to this part. It discussed the rapid advancement in AI. This, I find, actually feels incorrect to me, to be fair. It feels like AI has actually slowed quite a bit in the last year. I could be wrong, but that's my feeling on it. We're going to do the AI games in about a month. About a month. Actually, a little bit more than a month and a half. We're going to be doing the AI games in about a month and a half, and it feels like they've slowed down in their progress, but we'll see then, and we'll get a good feeling when doing that. Okay, so this was actually pretty... This is a terrible summary. I've gotten more out of reading the first 20 pages than this. Oh, from the current part 1 from the document, part 2 from the current page. I don't know what it's doing. Okay, we're going to move on. We're going to move on. That's pretty rough. Now, another paper that came out that I found very interesting. So in the face of all of this, OpenAI actually released their own paper, which I find very interesting. So basically, every person that left was part of their AI safety people. Now, what they did was OpenAI released this paper. This is actually an OpenAI paper about scaling and evaluating sparse auto encoders. So this goes into basically how they do some of their things with sparse auto encoders, which I think is actually really interesting. So I recommend you read this. This is much shorter. It's only 30 some pages. And I need to reread it because I only read it when I was really tired after driving a truck. And so I definitely need to, I basically just, I read the things without actually investigating and researching, which it needs to, with something this in depth. So anyways, I plan on reading this a little bit more and understanding the math just a little bit better. Yeah, it's really cool. I'm glad that they released it. All right. On the bright side, AMD's newest open source surprise, Piano, I'm calling it Piano, an LLM, a VM compiler for Ryzen AI NPUs. So this Friday, AMD announced a new project called Piano that serves as an open source LLVM compiler backend for AMD AI engine processors with particular focus on the AI systems on a chip with existing Phoenix and Hawks Point hardware, as well as the upcoming XDNA 2 So this, I know for a lot of people that want to dip their toes into AI, it feels extremely expensive, extremely difficult to even do some of the basic things because of how much GPU memory that they're consuming. And with AMD really starting to dip its toes with XDNA 2, even if it's not as powerful as it, if it brings competition, it's going to make it available for people to buy. I don't need the latest and greatest. I just need two or three cards sitting here to leverage. So I'm actually really excited about this, what they're doing here. Hopefully by the end of this year, we're able to do some machine learning stuff. That's kind of my goal. We don't need amazing GPUs to do some stuff, I understand, but it would be fun to get a few to definitely start plugging away at it. All right. All right. Let's move on. ChatGPT was down for a day on Tuesday. This is the second time in the same number of months that it was down, and we saw the same increase in code quality we saw last time. You're welcome. You're welcome. That's it for AI news. Did you guys see anything else? Did you guys see anything else? All right, we can jump into the cloud news. We can jump into the cloud news. Honestly, there was not too much too exciting. There was a couple interesting things. So, as we all know, Apple released their private AI cloud. I think it's an interesting take, but we're going to have follow up on it. As you know, Apple made an AI promise that your data is never stored or made accessible to Apple. But they made a larger claim that I think is important, and I think it's important that we as a community hold their feet to the fire on this one. They said they were going to make a system that was provable that they couldn't access it. And we need to see that proof. I actually think that this is really cool, and it's probably leveraging some of the blockchain technologies that I say are really cool and haven't had an applicable application. These are the types of things that I think would be really awesome. One of the things that we had talked about a little bit ago was basically a sanitizer that would sanitize sensitive data outside of captures, of network captures. And that was actually how a vulnerability happened. And I said that it would be really cool to provide a service, but I'd have to provide a service in such a way to prove that I wasn't keeping those information, all that sensitive data, that I was scrubbing from those things. And I think that this could be some way tied to the blockchain's technologies and or whatever Apple does to do this. Again, they haven't released it and they haven't said exactly what it is, but they're going to be able to verify their privacy promise. And so I'm really interested in that technology because I think it has a wide use. I want to do this with stuff with the Null cloud. I think this type of thing, to be able to prove to you my privacy standpoint and let you validate it, would be amazing. And what we can hold our clouds to. And in the future, the rest of our SaaS and other companies that we give our data to. I am very excited about this. I haven't been so excited about an Apple announcement since Apple announced things. I literally have never been so excited because this, I think, is huge. And I think this is what companies should start doing. And if we can do it, we will do it. All right, let's move on to other cloud news. There was another interesting partnership that came up this week. Oracle and Google Cloud announced a groundbreaking multi-cloud partnership. This signals something to me. Google Cloud is struggling. I don't know why they would do this. This is something that no other cloud has done. But these two are pairing up. I mean, they're the bottom two of the major four. I wouldn't have even put Oracle in the major clouds. It's the two bottom feeders ganging up. Yep. So I refuse to call it OCI. That's the Open Containers Initiative that they're a platinum sponsor of. So the Oracle Cloud, we'll just call it the OC, the Oracle Cloud. The OC, these two are partnering up. This is something we haven't seen. Now, I don't hate the idea. Making multi-cloud deployments easier, multi-cloud management, multi-cloud migrations, making those things easier is a good thing in general. I think it should be easier to transfer stuff between the two clouds, making the competition between the two clouds even better. I wish it was across more clouds, but it is what it is. As far as AWS goes, they've been really quiet. I know we had reInvent just a little bit ago, but they haven't had anything that, okay, and so it's not loading now either, but they haven't had anything in their newsfeed when I looked over it when it was loading. It's not loading now. So, breaking news, AWS's status page is down. They didn't have anything new when I did look, and they definitely don't have anything new now. That was my point. Moving on, the Overwhelmed Person Guides to Google Cloud, week of May 30th. So there wasn't anything really interesting here. There was the ground your LLM in Google search results, basically giving you a vector database of Google search for your LLM if you're trying to ground it in some sort of form of reality. This is kind of using Google search as your RAG database. Yeah, it's cool. It's probably actually pretty useful. You can connect to a third-party source control system with Developer Connect. I guess originally you could only use their thing, so you couldn't use like GitHub. I have never used this, but I guess that's now available, so that's cool. And they've opened up their artifact registry to store more different things. It was a little bit limited. Now, the worst part that I really hate about the store anything in artifact registry is last time that I checked with them, you could store everything, but basically it was just uploading a file. It wasn't like you got a RPM registry or a Debian registry that people could actually add as a registry. It was, yeah, you can upload a zip file. And yeah, it can be a deb tar or whatnot. Like, that's fine. It doesn't matter. But you don't get those registry interfaces that the tools would expect. So we'll see. And that's what this latest update supports generic packages that can be uploaded or downloaded. And this is all that it brings is now, instead of just containers and a few other things, you can also just upload zips, which is good, but it's not actually supporting PyPy if you wanted PyPy. Anyways, I'll move on. Moving on. Azure. General availability, audit logging in Azure API management developer portal. Okay, so I just brought this up. Audit logging is cool. So it's becoming generally available. You should be doing audit logging. If you're not, you're probably not SOC compliant. If you want SOC compliant, start audit logging. There you go. Well, retiring time series insights on July 7th. So if you're using Azure time series insights, you need to transition to the Azure Data Explorer. It should be the same experience. I haven't done this, but there you go. Azure Load Balancer now supports admin state. So this is, I read over this. We're announcing the public preview of Azure Load Balancer Administrative State, Admin State, to make managing your VMs in the backend pool of Azure Load Balancing simple and effective. With Admin State, you can override your Azure Load Balancer's health probe behavior to each individual backend pool instance. So basically, it allows you to manage your load balancer a little bit better for how it checks health, or my understanding of it as of right now is that if you use this admin state, you can effectively change slightly for a pool of VMs how it checks the health, which could be really helpful because sometimes it's really hard to actually know if your service is alive with some generic checks. But like I said, I don't use Azure, so read it yourself. Azure Bastion Premium. Bastion is a pretty common thing that you can use to access your nodes, and they have a premium SKU now for customers handling highly sensitive virtual machine workloads. So it basically has enhanced security features built into it. I think they should have just added these to the standard Bastion, but they obviously want to make money. That was it for the cloud news. Did you guys see anything else in the clouds? Like I said, we need to follow up on Cloudflare, and I will do that next Friday. I didn't have the time with everything going on to further dig into everybody's reply and response. I've been catching up myself on things. So I want to do a fair coverage of it. And so we'll do that next Friday because I know that there has been some progress in what has been said. All right. Well, we'll talk about some general stuff. If you're running Ubuntu and you'd like to do web development, there is a new tool. I had to cover this just because it's David Hansen. Just because it's David Hansen. There is a new tool for Linux. Because everyone knows that Omacub is the tool for Ubuntu to set up a Ubuntu installation and make it a fully configured, beautiful, and modern web development system by running a single command. So, if you're running Ubuntu, want a highly opinionated, fully configured, and, I might add you, beautiful, go check Omacub. I have no idea. Now, that being said, I don't do that much web development and I don't run Ubuntu. You all know that I run Arch because it's the best OS to run Edge, and Edge is one of my requirements. And so really, I have to use Arch. And he calls out that this isn't for somebody. I love how he calls out NixOS and Arch. I love how these two, he's like, no. Not for you. Not for you. Good sir, step away from Omacub. Omacub. I think it's a little baby bear. It's a Omacub. Oma means white in my native tongue. And it's a little white baby cub. Albino cub, actually. Red eyes. Very creepy. What is Edge? Only the greatest web browser to hit Linux. It's only the greatest browser to hit Linux. I can't believe you don't know about this. It's probably the biggest news. It has fixed web browsing on Linux for everybody. All right, we actually have an ad. Because asking about Edge was so offensive. It's ad time. It's actually been ad time, and I've been hitting the snooze, but I only get 3 snoozes. So we'll just pause for a second. We'll just pause for a second. That piece of wonderful glory that you're missing out on. Literally the best Linux browser out there, I think. I do very little Microsoft. I think Edge might be the only piece of Microsoft. I do have VS Code installed. I have VS Code installed. I haven't used VS Code in a very long time, but it is installed. I hope does everybody have any weekend plans for those of you who have subbed and aren't getting ads? Any weekend plans? Scott B programs in the Lord's language. Programs in the Lord's language. I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret. I'm going to let you guys in software engineering. For all of you. Oh, wait. There is no ad running yet? I thought there was supposed. Okay. Maybe the ad's running now. Anyways. I don't know. I thought the ad's been running this whole time, and it just said that the ad was starting. So I have zero ideas what's happening, but that's okay. I apologize. I wasted time that I didn't need to. So I'm going to let all of you subscribers into a little piece of knowledge. There are a lot of triforces in the programming world, just a lot of them. They're built out of these triangles, and there's one that few people don't know. There's one that people just they miss, and it confounds me at how they don't see how they don't see this one. Yeah, Scott B. I question myself on whether what I've done is programming or rolling my face on a keyboard. That's why I got a split keyboard. It makes it much harder to roll my face on the entire keyboard. I can only do it on half of it at a time. All right. So, of this trifecta, this latest trifecta that I myself just learned is this one. I'm going to let you guys bask in the glory of this for just a little bit. Just feel it soak in. Feel it soak in. Just take a deep breath. Take a look. Close your eyes. Breathe in. Breathe out. Feeling better now, aren't we? Do you know what exists at the middle of this triangle? How else are you going to program? How else are you going to do anything with any of these without Edge to search for it? I'm being serious. Like, this is a trifecta, but you can't do crap with them if you don't have Edge. There you go. There's my little tidbit for subscribers. I'm sorry. I can't make up really funny content on the fly. I have to think about it for a little while. I can only do medium. Only medium. Our ad break is done now. Welcome back, all of you people that had to watch ads. You missed quite one of the biggest reveals of all history. All right. Well, welcome back. Let's get on to it. So we're talked about this. I would love if one of you actually uses it. I would love to hear your thoughts on it. I have watched some screenshots and stuff and seen some stuff. I don't know. Like I said, I kind of think that I dislike these things, and I'll explain why I dislike these things. If you're using Linux, my personal opinion is that you need to learn Linux. And the reason I say that is this is going to hide a bunch of stuff from you. And it feels good. And if you want to use this to get started, that's great. This is actually why I like Kickstart as a project. So NeoVim has a Kickstart project that I think TJ is the main maintainer of. I know that there's other people that help with it, and that's fantastic. And what I like about Kickstart is it gives you a place to start, and it allows you to learn it, and it documents how to learn it. Because the big thing is, this, or Kickstart, is inevitably going to fail you and not have everything that you need by design, and also because it would just be too much to handle every single configuration without being just as hard as doing it all manually. So I think this is a great place to start, but what you need to do is you need to then go out and learn Linux. Use it as a place to get started, but then tinker with it. This is why I actually started using Arch instead of just using Ubuntu like I always have, is because I wanted to actually learn Linux better, because Ubuntu is great until I hit an edge case. And then I didn't have the knowledge to really dig into it. I knew Linux well enough to do file systems and stuff like that, but I didn't know it well enough to fully understand those types of things. And one of my goals was to learn it better. In fact, when we hit 1,000 subscribers, we're going to kick off Linux the hardest way, and we're actually going to roll our own distribution for the experience of doing it. So anyways, we'll do that if we get 1,000 followers. So anyways, that would be my one thing with this. Don't just lean on this. Use it to get started, but then investigate what it does. Investigate the script and move on that way. All right. The other thing, if you guys are using GitHub Actions, there was this. I'm going to post this. All right, wait. I have a question. If I get a job as a junior dev, and let's say I couldn't do the task completely. So Mohammed, I don't know your company. If I have a junior developer, I don't expect them to be able to do any task completely on their own, or fairly few. Now, I do think there's two types of let me finish the news and then we'll circle back on this. I want to talk about it. I do. And I'll tell you what I expect from a junior developer, what I'd like to see from them. And so I'll circle back and we're almost done. GitHub released a way to reduce iOS testing, and they have new iOS testing GitHub action runners, and they have some pretty beefy ones out there as well. So if you're wanting to test your iOS app in an automated way through GitHub Actions, you now can. So anyways, it is interesting. I thought I'd let you guys know. I don't do this, so I have no idea. I have no idea. All right. And then we have two last things to talk about. But before we talk about them, I have about 30 minutes left of lunch break. Let's talk about Muhammad's thing. Also, yeah, this is terrible. When you click on these, it should make them bigger, not download. I realize now the hover says download, but I just wanted to make them bigger. That's super weird. Anyways, let's talk about what Muhammad was asking. It's an important question. As a junior developer, I want to see a couple things. So let's talk about those. I want to see a desire to learn. I want to see you taking initiative to learn. I want to see you attempting to do it. So let's say that task that you're struggling with. Before you go and ask for help, which you should ask for help in a reasonable amount of time. And this is something you have to learn, is how much is a reasonable amount of time. So, for example, before you say you can't do a thing, or before you ask for help, Google it. Google the error that you're running into. And when you go and ask for help, you ask for help by saying, hey, look, I have this error. I found some things. I tried these different things. I attempted to do this, and I think the problem might be this. And show that you put forth effort to it. I don't care that you didn't do it, because everybody has knowledge gaps. I today have knowledge gaps where I have to say, I don't know. I have to research it. And that's fine. And a junior's dev knowledge gaps are much larger. So before you ask for help, though, Google it. Show that you have the desire to learn. And when you have one of these mistakes or issues, make sure you learn from it and don't have the exact same one. Okay, so my second one is don't have the same issue twice. If you keep coming back to me with the same thing, it means that you're never learning it. So what I see from this is, even if you have the desire to learn, if you're not learning, this is a problem. I can't keep wasting my time repeating the same thing over and over and over again. This doesn't mean if it happens once, that's like immediate fire or anything like that, but try to mitigate this as much as possible, because the whole goal is, if I help you with something, I want you to learn what I'm saying and try to understand. It doesn't mean that you learn everything that I say immediately. Just try not to repeat the same issue and get stuck on the same issue twice. Like I said, I can't tell you about your company specifically or anything like that, because, again, I don't know your manager. I'm trying to give you generalized advice as the best that I can. And this is what I look for in a junior dev. The third thing that I look for when we're talking about a junior dev is, I'm going to say, enthusiasm. This kind of goes with desire to learn, but an enthusiasm to do, and maybe willingness to do the unknown. A lot of our job is the unknown. So if I don't know is a roadblock for you, that's a problem. If I don't know is an exciting thing for you because you get to learn something, that's a positive. Let me think of the way to say this appropriately. Maybe this just goes under desire to learn. I don't know. Let's just put it as a sub point here. I don't know. All right, there we go. Yeah. I think comfortable being uncomfortable. Now, what I do want to stress here is you don't have to live your life in uncomfort here. But what I do, so a lot of times humans in as a whole struggle with new things, and that's fine. It's okay, and you don't have to live every day feeling uncomfortable. You have to be okay with it happening every once in a while and learning something new. Then there'll be lulls, and it doesn't have to be every single day that you take on. You don't have to be sitting there thinking like, okay, today I didn't feel uncomfortable. Oh no, I'm going to get fired because if I wasn't uncomfortable, I haven't been learning you don't have to panic like that. You have to just be okay with the fact that it's going to happen. It's going to happen probably more often than you like, and you have to learn to compensate for that, and it'll be fine. It's like with streaming. I actually uncomfortable a lot of the times when I'm streaming because I do stuff like this. And you know what my biggest worry is? I say something here that you implement and get fired. I have that direct fear. It's something I'm uncomfortable with. I do really want to help, and I think that I can help, so I do it anyways, even though I'm uncomfortable with it. That is why I quantify the things that I say for what I'm looking for. And again, not all bosses are the same or workplaces are the same. It's why I quantify those things, but I think that this is good knowledge in general. Actually, that is a very good one we're going to add. So what they mean by a smart man knows what he knows and a wise man knows what he doesn't. This is called, I just deleted everything. That is what that's called. Let's undo that. This is called having a little bit. So basically, when you're a child, you think you know everything. And as you grow and learn more, you learn about what you don't know. And as you understand more that you don't know. The number of things that when I was 10, I couldn't tell you what I didn't know. And now I can tell you a bunch of things I don't know. And this is actually really important in understanding your limits. Don't go away for 2 months getting nothing done. Don't do the stress to yourself, getting nothing done because they asked you to do something that was well beyond what you could do. It doesn't make you look good. It doesn't make anything. Say, hey, either I need somebody to help me with this or I need somebody else to do it because I don't have the skills, and maybe you don't even know that you don't know it, but 1-2 days in, you can raise your hand and be like, yo dog, I need help. And that's fine. You got to understand your limits. And this is hard. This is, and I'm not going to say that you're going to hit the ground understanding this because you know what? A lot of really great devs started out not understanding their limits. A lot of great devs thought they were just out here. And they were really back here. Now, this is a bell curve. This is the higher. Anyways, they were back here. And what their high confidence level let them do was take on problems that they had no right trying to take on. And they learned from it. And they learned from the failures. So this is not necessarily good because they're usually not fun to work with either. But I guess what I'm saying is don't shy away from problems. Just understand your limits. Don't shy away from being uncomfortable because That's not what I'm trying to say here. But also understand when you're 2-3 days in, it's time to call it quits, or at some point, especially if you're no longer making progress. If you've spent a day without making progress and you don't have ideas to try, it's time to ask for help. That's generally what I tell my junior devs, that if you spent a day, an entire day, you haven't made progress and you're out of ideas to try, like you don't have an inkling of another thing to try, it's time to pull the plug and say, hey, I need help. And there's no shame in that. So Dane, I like how you're listing it. Be humble, ask for help, when appropriate, be a sponge, absorb all the help that you can, and emotional maturity. All these things are difficult, and I'm not saying that you're going to hit the ground running as a junior dev and tick off all the boxes. I think that if you shoot for these things, it increases your chance of succeeding in whatever you're doing. And that's what I would encourage you to do. If I see these in a junior dev, it also, if I tell you something a month ago and you bring it up in conversation, oh, Merrick, I did try this because I remember last month you told me this and I thought it seemed like a similar problem. I'm ecstatic. I'm like, my goodness, this guy has a great memory. I have no idea what I told you a month ago. And it makes me feel bad because I'm like, I have no idea what I told you a month. Dang it. That's amazing. But this is the types of things that I'm looking for. So anyways, I hope this helps you. I can try to sanitize this down into, I like how Dane put it, but yeah. Complaint up and compliment down. That's not just a junior dev thing. That is. Oh, you know what, Dane? We need to do a review of that video. Do I do that tomorrow? So there was a video on some advice that I think was really close, but wrong in motivation. It like got really close to some really good, like it told you to do the right thing for the wrong reason, in my opinion. And I thought I wanted to talk about it. I might do that tomorrow. Mohammed, always ask for help in Discord if you want to talk about these things. Always bring them up in chat. This is what I live stream for, is to try to help people. So if I can do it, I'm super happy to do this. I'm super happy in the middle of my news to take a little bit of time to do this. These are the biggest things off the top of my head that I look for in a junior developer. Again, everybody's company is different. Part of that is understanding your company, but I don't think anybody is going to dislike these set of things. These things. Hopefully nobody expects a ton from a junior developer. I do expect these things from them, but these aren't things that you have pre-knowledge of. I don't have expectations of your prior knowledge. That's generally something. If I hire a junior dev, if I hire anybody but a junior dev, I do have some expectations of their knowledge. If they said that they were a Kubernetes person and they're a senior engineer, I have some expectations of a base knowledge in Kubernetes. That is not really true for a junior dev. Okay, let's get back to business. I saw this. Now, I released a video on Scrum, and I found this to be really interesting. So I guess there is a new book coming out on impact engineering, and I can do something on impact engineering. This is actually, though, really interesting because they actually try to put data to this. Now, I would say try to put data. They put a lot of data to this, and they look at a bunch of things that are considered failure scenarios and whatnot, and look at what impact certain things have on those. Now, I don't have, because we talked about this, which was fine, I don't have the time to break into this, but I think that this actually reveals some really important things that I've always disliked about the abuse of Agile, is what I'll call it. And in general, I think it's the abuse of Scrum too. When people say like, working software over documentation, or comprehensive documentation, it doesn't necessarily mean no documentation or bad documentation. And it also doesn't mean there are some things that need really good documentation. Like if you're a library that people are supposed to use, that needs really good documentation. Now, if you have a calculator, do you need really good documentation, or do people intrinsically understand how to push buttons on a calculator? You probably don't need as much documentation for that. So there are definitely extremes to Agile. And I think those extremes is what gets us into a lot of trouble. And these actually bring up some really good points that I do think get people in trouble. Like this. The project requirements were clear before the software development process began, actually increases the success of the likelihood of success of the project by a lot. And I think that some people get lost in Agile where they're like, fail fast and whatnot, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have clear requirements for the projects, even if those requirements change. That's one thing. The requirements need to be clear. And that is actually something I've seen on successful projects. We've always had a very set North Star. We've always had a really good, clear set of requirements that our software is looking to achieve. Now, things might change. We might learn new information and change things. But that means we actually change the clear set of requirements that we're shooting for. Anyways, I think that this brings up some really good things, even if you're in a Agile work thing that you can adopt, and it doesn't mean that you have to throw away Agile as a whole. Now, impact engineering is something that I know a little bit about, but I actually haven't ever been in an impact engineering team. So it's something I'm going to be reading a little bit more about to understand. So I'll let you guys know. I'll make an honest ad about impact engineering. It will have a lot of impact for sure. Why I changed my mind about blockchain. This was the last thing that I wanted to show you guys. This isn't a reaction. I read it. I need help understanding. I need you guys to help me understand. Nobody asked me to say this. This was sponsored by Aerospike, the company I work for. So to be clear, but nobody at my company asked me to talk about this article. Nobody asked me to do anything. I found it on my own, actually. I didn't even know we sponsored it until I got here and I saw like this blurb. So I didn't even know until then. And then I saw this up here. So I'm being overly honest with you all. Again, like I said, nobody has asked me to do anything. But I found this interesting because it combines blockchain with a database. And this is the part that I find confusing myself. And I wanted your guys' thoughts on it. I'd actually like you to read it and then discuss it in the Discord. My understanding is blockchain is a ledger, right? And that's what they talk about here. With a lot of banks have problems with scaling their ledger system. So I'm choosing to use core banking system instead of cryptocurrency to avoid the various associations with the later term. For this discussion, we can think of the cryptocurrency simply as a system that enables customers to create accounts, deposits, withdrawals, and transfer funds. So they're using blockchain for something that doesn't necessarily generate a token, something I've talked to you guys about. And I actually love this type of thing because I've always said, and IBM proved this, that you can create a blockchain without tokens and it can be a private blockchain. Now, I question the usefulness when you make it a private blockchain, but I've talked about this. And so this is really cool. And I was actually really on board with this as I was going. But then I have this thought. Aerospike is also a ledger, right? It's a strongly consistent key value store. You can actually keep a ledger in it. So upgrading the heart and soul of a core banking system from RDBMSs to scalable, faster, more cost-effective solutions like NoSQL databases. I really don't like the term NoSQL because there's so many different types. I think there should be SQL, there should be time series, there should be key value, there should be XYZ. Has proven to be an exceptionally challenging. This is largely due to inherent characteristics of RDBMSs, which is ideally suited for constructing complex systems. Nevertheless, a very application initially developed using a relational database has successfully made the transition to NoSQL. During the transition, the data storage layer inevitably loses certain key characteristics while gaining others. Those features are critical to the application's function and that cannot be overlooked. So anyways, I'm going to let you guys continue reading this, and I want you guys to join the Discord and chat about it. Because my thing, and like there could be like a really exciting application of blockchain that I'm actually asking people internally as well on it, because I want to understand this a little bit better, because I don't understand where the ledger works and where Aerospike stops, where the database, it doesn't matter that it's Aerospike, you could put any database in there. I don't understand why both. The article is fairly well put out, but I wanted to talk about it because, like I said, I'm always in search for really useful, applicable things of blockchain. And again, I'm not talking about tokens. I'm talking about the distributed consensus and trust and ledger portion of it. So if you guys don't mind, give it a read. It's not super long. And give me your thoughts. I want to talk about more, probably next week at some point. As I learn more on it. I was excited about it. So, there you go. That was it for the news for me. I have exactly 4 minutes left over. 4 minutes of lunch. Actually, I might use it to make a cup of coffee. All right. Well, I think that's it for me. It seems like you guys don't have questions. I hope that you guys have a fantastic weekend. If you can, come check out the stream tomorrow morning. We're going to be doing some stuff. We're going to talk about the Null Cloud, the changes that we're making to it, what we're going to start at. We're going to try to construct it a little bit nicer and cleaner and start from the ground up. We're also going to finish out supporting the Null Cloud as it is. At least the API will all be working. If people want to play around with it, they should be able to log in and play around with it as long as resources work. I don't know that I'll be doing my Rust classes tomorrow. I didn't have the time, and I've got to recheck where we are. What we'll probably do instead is look up the database. I need to make the next database episode that we did on consensus and the file storage. So we got to go back and clean that up some and basically just do a little bit of planning around that. So we'll do a little bit of talking around the consensus as well as the file storage, refresh my mind on it, so that we can make a video on it. We also have to deploy our new Twitch alert system. So we'll get that deployed out, which is backed and powered by HTMX. Love it or hate it, that's what it is. And yeah, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you, everyone. I hope you have a great weekend. I will see you hopefully tomorrow.